Hey folks, we're up here today in New Hampshire, and I'm doing a video that was requested by a subscriber, and that subscriber asked if I do a video that sort of covers the basic of AKs, especially for new shooters. Now, one of the things that I want to stress here is that you should pursue training with any firearm that you're using. So this video is informational and it should not be considered as training. There are lots of good schools around the country that will do that. There are a lot of good experts on the AK and other systems that can really help you. Today though, I am going to give you kind of an overview of the things that I understand to be important when I'm running the AK. One of the things that I've done as a modification is I've swapped out and added the Krebs Custom safety. What's nice about the Krebs Custom, of course, is the fact that I can run it with my index finger, which for me is just easier. So that's not a deal breaker to everyone, but that to me is a relatively inexpensive piece of gear that will dramatically improve the ergonomics and the way in which the rifle works. So what I'd like to do now is move on to some of the aspects of loading and unloading the gun. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is loading and unloading the gun. To load the magazine, what you want to do is get the gun into what I call a workspace. And you can see here what it is. It's sort of in between my ribs and kind of locked in against my body with my elbow. What this allows me to do is it allows me to see this part of the gun. So as I'm indexing the magazine and locking the magazine in, I have a very good and clear picture of that. The other thing we want to do when loading AK mags is we want our knuckles sort of right here so we can index the center and then lock them in and you'll hear a click. So bring the magazine up, right? With my knuckles, I lock in, get a nice click, and then from the other side, just I'll rotate here, safety comes off, I rack the slide, right, with my left hand underneath, so I come back and do that. Now because this is a double stack magazine, one of the ways I can check that I've loaded a round, I can take the magazine out and I can see that the round that was on the right side is now on the left side, meaning I've chambered a round. So that's one way to check it. The other way is safety comes off. I can bring the gun down so I can now see it over the top. I can bring it back and I can see that there's a round in there. I can also stick my finger in if this is at night to actually feel that round. So that's essentially what it takes. I'm coming up, I'm looking, I'm visually inspecting, or I can do it the way that I showed you before. So I've looked at the mag before I inserted it, and I know that after I've loaded it, that round should be on the other side of the mag. So that's it. Unloading, just doing the exact opposite. First thing I'm doing is I'm removing the magazine, right? The ammunition source. So I've got the magazine out. I've now got my safety off, and I'm racking that slide. So what I look for is I look for the round coming out and across, and I see it over there. However, I'm still going to inspect, so I'm flipping the rifle back, bringing the charging handle back. I'm looking in, I'm doing a visual inspection. If I were shooting with a buddy, right, there might be some value add in having him just verify. I say, I'm clear. He says, you're clear. We're good to go. So that's what that looks like. Then for me, safety always goes back on. I'm firing away whatever my threats are. Bam, bam, bam. I get a click. There are a couple things I can do. One, I can just take my thumb, come up against the latch here, and just sweep the magazine out, right? The magazine's gone. I bring another one, in this case out of my coat pocket. I come up. Remember, we index with our knuckles up here. Rack a slide. And I'm good to go. So that's what that looks like. Right. Got my spare mag here. I bring my spare mag up. With my thumb, I engage the latch, right? Kick that mag out and bring that in. Now, one advantage of that is just you're not doing a whole lot more other than bringing that other mag up, engage the latch, dropping the empty mag, and putting the fresh one in. So that's one nice way to approach it. The other one that you see and that I like and that works pretty well is we're shooting the gun. All of a sudden, gun goes empty, click, right? Bring the mag up. Underneath here, I just whack that thing with the other mag. And again, we come up, come up and in, rack our slide, and we're good to go. So really those are the three ways. There is no right way, wrong way, whatever works for you. And that's important to practice. And again, we want to practice this dry before we go to the range so we build some level of comfort. But what I'm doing now is I'm using the version that has us push against the tab, come up, cycle, I get the click, gun comes up into my workspace, I bring my other mag up. As I do, I work the release button, cycled around. So it may not look like it's super fast. I think the reality is for most civilians, we're not in a combat situation and you're going to shoot to slide lock. When you get to slide lock, you're going to try to move to cover, or hopefully you've already been moving to cover. And if you can't, and I'm engaging someone, right, and I'm firing away and the gun goes click, I'm immediately transitioning to my sidearm and I'm getting it out there to get in the fight. And what I might do in that case is as I'm firing, I'm moving to cover. So that's another perspective and one reason why we do carry sidearms. So when our primary weapon runs dry or out or it breaks or something, we're able to continue to put rounds down range, provides them a moment or whatever to get to cover. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about stance. I'm going to show you this on two rifles because on the AK-74 variants, the 5.45 by 39 round is a very, very gentle round and there's not a lot of recoil that you're mitigating. So a traditional stance that you might see kind of people who are new to ARs or new to shooting kind of combat weapons kind of have this traditional rifle stance. So your elbows up, right? And you've got this kind of almost standing straight up, vertically up in terms of your body position. And so, as you fire the gun here, right? You come up, your elbow's here. So not that hard, but again, you can see that even with the light recoil of this round, I'm still moving back. What I believe is a much more efficient way to do it is to get over the gun and be a little bit more aggressive with the gun. So what I like to do is I like to get my body kind of somewhat straight onto the target, knees bent, so I've got some flex and give in my knees, I'm on the balls of my feet, I'm pulling the gun into my body as much as I can, and I'm trying to get over the gun. So if you almost think about it, I'm trying to get my chest almost horizontal to the ground. So that looks much more aggressive, and you can see I'm here. I have a much more aggressive stance. That allows me to do a couple things. One, if I'm sitting like this with my elbow out, and I come up and I have to use cover, right? My elbow's sticking out, likely to get my elbow shot off. I can bring my body tight and keep everything kind of in. I have a much better chance of exposing less of my body if I'm using cover than if I have my elbow out. The other thing that it does is if I need to move and I'm kind of facing the target like this, I'm already bent over somewhat and I can move. And guess what? When I move, using my legs as shock absorbers, it's almost like a turret of the tank where all the tank is moving, the muzzle of that gun is staying straight, and that's really what we want when we're running the AKs. So again, I would recommend you experiment. Try to get over the gun as much as you can. And really try to get down on it, over the gun. The more that you can do that, really, in my opinion, the better control that you're going to have of recoil management. And again, especially when I switch guns and I go to the 7.62x39, that 30 caliber round, again, is not a hugely intimidating, hard punch to the side, but having the aggressive stance, very much like you do with handguns, really getting over it and getting forward. If you watch competitive shooters shoot, they're definitely like this. They're definitely over and leaning forward to mitigate that recoil. So let's take a look at that on the 7.62x39 platform. Much better than if I have the traditional shoulders out, right? Kind of the old Army rifle school thing. Shoulders out. The other one is right underneath, sort of almost just supporting the rifle, right? Straight up and down. So you can see I can do that, but I don't have as much control as I do when I get the gun into a much more aggressive, and I get my body into a much more aggressive stance, knees back. So you see in that case, because my body is more toward a horizontal position, forward slightly, I have a much better gun. Than standing vertically, right? Traditional rifle stance. The gun's coming up. It's torquing up and away. So those are a couple things to think about as you're running the AK and you're working on maintaining muzzle control, especially in rapid fire or firing fairly fast. Finally, the last thing this will help you do, again, if we follow that kind of stance, is our movement is going to be much more effective because we can keep the relatively stable because it's bended right now. We'll get some real wind up here. So that's a real quick overview on loading, unloading, and then stance. Being aggressive on the gun and getting over the gun and really pulling it back in. You can see that the gun is really staying down, and there's two reasons for that. One is my stance. The other one is the AK-74 style brake that you see on many rifles now, and they do a fabulous job. Yeah, they're heavy, they're not real sightly, they're not as pretty as some of the other ones that are made out there. They don't look particularly cool, but they are extremely effective. And I have a video that shows shooting this gun without the muzzle brake on it, and just how effective it is. But you do notice, again, when you're pulling that gun into your shoulder, and in fact, I'll do that with my left hand now. When you're pulling that gun into your shoulder, how much control you have. And you can see that one of the things that I'm doing is I'm really getting over the gun. I'm not standing up straight, right? So the more that you can get into this kind of stance, the more control that you're going to have of the muzzle and the muzzle flip associated with the 7.62x39 round. Well, hopefully that provided you all with some understanding of the basics of running an AK. Obviously, what you need to do is you need to practice with whatever platform you're using, and that you're going to use to defend yourself with. I think the AK is an excellent platform. I really like it, and I certainly feel well served using this as my primary weapon system. And it's really just a matter of practicing the way in which you manipulate the gun, how you reload, how you unload. And again, let's go through unloading, because I'm getting ready to put it away here and close down for today. So to unload, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the magazine, right? The ammunition source. I stow the magazine so I know where it is. Safety off. Round came out, I can see it on the ground. I'm still going to check, right? So I can rotate the gun this way and work it down, visually inspect. Looks good. Safety comes back on, and now I know that the gun is safe and the weapon's been cleared, and we're basically good to go. So I really appreciate you watching, and hopefully for the one subscriber who is interested in this, hopefully this will provide you some baseline tools. I'd also recommend, there's a great video DVD by Travis Haley called The Adaptive Kalash, and he'll basically show you all the stuff I showed you, except he's an expert. I'm just a guy who likes guns. So you could buy that video. It's, I don't know, 29 or 40 bucks, I don't know what it is, but it's well worth it. It's really good. And if you practice the stuff that he shows you in there, you will get very good at manipulating the gun and running the gun and feeling confident about using it as your primary weapon. Certainly appreciate all the subscriptions and all the folks who've been watching, and I want to thank you for that. And as always, I'd ask that we all stay safe.